What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. Boy, oh boy, is it a bittersweet one. Wish we could have taken Game 4 from the Padres on Sunday. We let them off the hook, and the Mets end up splitting, taking the series from the Padres on the season 5-2 this year. That's how I'm going to spin this to be not the worst thing in the
That's
world.
crazy.
I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna say that the sky is not falling. There's way too much sky is falling narrative right now on Twitter.
I'm not saying this guy is falling, but I'm saying that sucked. That was
Yes.
a swift kick in the dick, and I feel significantly worse about not the season, but about the weekend just because of that one game.
Sure, of course. We will talk
Fair.
about everything going on in this series because there is
Ugh.
so much to talk about from that
Ugh.
four games in San Diego. Big series coming up against the Arizona Diamondbacks. We got a little special guest, Dalton Kates, live from Arizona. Big Diamondbacks fan, good friend of ours. So you guys will enjoy that if you want to hear what a Diamondbacks fan even sounds like. I'm sure you don't even know about them as a Mets fan. You've probably never met one, honestly. But hopefully you guys will enjoy this episode. If you do, remember to drop a like on the YouTube video as well as subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the content over here on Mets'd podcast. If you like what you're listening to, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. James, check to see if Frankie Peppers has given us. I feel like this could be a voice memo from Frankie Peppers.
Yeah, you're right.
So keep that in
I
mind
missed
for the
last
end.
episode.
Yeah, missed the last episode. I feel like we could get something from him.
We got one.
Nice. We got one from Frankie Peppers. Now everyone's going to stay to the end. I absolutely love that. And don't forget to like us and follow us on all our social media at Mets'd. Links will be in the description. All right, let's talk about this series. The Mets did not play poorly, but they didn't play well. They didn't lose any ground, but they also didn't gain any ground. It was a very, very bittersweet series. And to be fair, this is something we talked about before this. Everyone was putting so much pressure on these two series, and rightfully so. But the narrative was this is either going to save the Mets season or this is going to end the Mets season. And what do you know? Nothing changed.
I mean, yeah, that's just me, the classic jinx. I tried to jinx in the ninth inning. Did you catch what I tried to jinx and text to you? I was like, Edwin Díaz doesn't look right. And of course, he actually didn't look right. Like, fuck, I was too on with that one. But it's just, bittersweet. Like, it's so bittersweet because we're stuck in this area where the Mets had, I don't know. They lost on Friday resoundingly. Joe Musgrove is still a cheater somehow, some way.
Cheating Joe.
But yeah, cheating Joe with the shiny ears. It's just, that game Sunday, while you were winning, you never actually felt like you were going to win.
Yes.
And it's not like anyone's particular fault. It just felt like a game that's like, I don't like that eighth inning start. I'm like, how are we going to get these 6 outs? And like, I know how we're going to get them because I knew the pitchers on the mound were the guys we wanted to have on the mound. But it's just like one more run would have been special. You hit 2 solo homers. You didn't really have a sustained rally besides that outside of Martin Perez's last inning where then Brian Hogan got Francisco Lindor to end the 4th. Just being his name, being a nice little hoeing. But it's just, God, it was just, there weren't even that many opportunities to point to. It's just that the Padres have this bullpen.
That's unbelievable.
That these guys start coming in the game, you have no fucking chance to score a run. The fact that Jeremiah Estrada throws 101 miles an hour like a BB, pitches the 6th inning. This was the first time we saw Robert Suarez the whole series, and he's borderline unhittable, and he only throws fastballs. Tanner Scott, somehow, Mark Vientos hit. Jason Adams, somehow he hit him. Tanner Scott, too. It's just like, God. They're a good team. They're a really good team. I wouldn't want to get into a playoff series with them, truly.
No, and this is truly what happens with the Padres for the last 3 years. This is one of the teams that kind of like has stumbled into the playoffs the last few years, but then once they get there, you're like, they are dangerous. I mean, we saw that when they beat our ass in the wild card and just stomped all over us.
Yeah.
This is a team that can go on a run. That being said, just sucks that we couldn't get that extra game on them, especially with the Braves losing 2. Could have been 1.5 out, but we're still 2.5 out after Sunday's loss to the Padres. The thing, too, with this game, it was very much a microcosm of what's been going on in the second half. It has been Francisco Lindor. It has been not JD Martinez, and Mark Vientos. And I know Lindor didn't come through with the big hit in game 4 of the series because he did come up with the bases loaded, and like you said, Hoeing got out of it. But Vientos hit the solo home run. JD got the solo home run. There's just not a lot of help right now in terms of getting that big hit outside of Lindor and Vientos. And I don't know what's going on. Like, Pete's just a singles machine again, which is kind of annoying. His approach at the plate has been terrible again. He's taking pitches that are strikes and then swinging at balls out of the zone. Nimmo is in such a funk, and I think that shoulder's bothering him, and I think he's playing through it because he just really isn't lifting the ball like he was when he was on earlier in the year. But we need someone else on the offense to step up. I don't know who it's going to be, but Lindor and Vientos can't really do all the heavy lifting. It's not possible.
Yeah, if the Mets would have won this game Sunday, this would have been a generational Lindor Glaze episode. We probably would have done 20 straight minutes on him being the most valuable player in the National League, but we just can't. Now we're stuck on this, and it does come back to the rest of this lineup. I didn't love the shakeups by Mendoza in the lineup, the hard shakeups. I know it's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, we're grasping at straws here, but just like, I don't know. Like, hasn't hit 3, Nimmo hasn't hit 4. You're placing a lefty. You switch those two. Does that really do that much?
The only
Martinez down
reason
6 seemed like
I'm
woke him up.
cool with it is because like those guys haven't been hitting. So it's like he left the guys who are Lindor and Vientos in their spots, and it's like let's figure out where you guys are going to get hot, and that's kind of been how the Mets have been all year too. If you think about it, like he's
Sure.
like Lindor in the leadoff spot, revolutionary, changed the game, crazy. What he did in Cleveland kind of works. Mark Vientos in the 2 spot has really boosted his game as well, getting him more at bats with Lindor on base has been phenomenal. And then like Nimmo, Pete, JD, those guys really have been like just kind of scuffling around, trying to figure out what's going on, where can we get them that's working. I don't know. Again, like I know you're not saying this is why we lost, but
No.
I think also at the same time, I at least like the attempt of trying to figure something out because it hasn't been working for those guys.
Yeah, oddly, the one I had the most trouble with, was upset about the most, was the Martinez moving down, even though he's been terrible his whole year. But this is a situation where the lineup of that day is much more about just simply the matchup you have and the pitcher you're facing, rather than like, oh, he's had 4 bad weeks. Because Rodney said in JD Martinez's first at bat, he said Martin Perez is a bit of a mark for JD Martinez. I'd love to use that term, mark. I was like, that's a great term. I'm gonna start incorporating that one more. But JD's always been crushed sinkers, and he's always crushed low balls, and that's what Martin Perez does. He throws sinkers low. That's where he hit the home run of Martin Perez in a low sinker. So just like in this individual matchup, you can kind of feel that JD is one of your best hitters set to hit against Martin Perez. And I know that he hasn't had a good month and a half now we're getting on here, but if any guy who I want to have the 3rd most at bats in a game, then you see him hit this whole home run, it makes it more frustrating because Lindor again, these things aren't apples and oranges. Like he wouldn't have hit the home run if he hit 3rd because he hit 1-6. There might not have been a man on base wherever he was if he hit one, nevertheless. But I'm just in an individual matchup perspective, just from in like single game scouting, you have to think that JD Martinez is one of your best hitters against a guy like Martin Perez. So we're picking at straws. I'm really getting my minuscule microcosm here, but it's just as well these little tiny things. I think it's just first year manager shit. We're like, change it up. I think it might be a little too much.
One of the things that I know that you're bothered by too is just Starling Marte right now. And I know he technically hasn't really played bad, but I am just frustrated by the quality of his at-bats consistently throughout the game. He has a bunch of at-bats where it looks like he has no plan, no approach, just kind of goes up there. And maybe this isn't fair. Maybe we don't know. This probably just is Starling Marte, how he's played baseball his entire career. But now in these crucial moments, in these big games, the really, really awful at-bats where he takes 2 strikes and then chases a ball that's never even close to the strike zone, it's infuriating. And while Lindor's vibes are amazing, Vientos' vibes are amazing, Jesse Winker's vibes have been amazing, it's really tough to see Starling Marte come out there and just kind of lackadaisically play baseball every single day.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like he's just going through the motions, especially on defense. He kind of plays baseball like Nikola Jokic plays basketball. He's just not the best player on earth, so he doesn't really get away with it. And it is also weird because Marte's in line for his bat. Not weird, but this Marte's in line for his bat, and then you always have to take him out for his glove. So there, it wasn't this game, but there have been situations similar to Winker, but Winker I appreciate more, where you have him hitting 5th, but then halfway through the game, Tyrone Taylor's getting in that bat. Tyrone Taylor came in for defense in the end of this game. He didn't get in that bat, but like if this game went to extra innings, he conceivably would have gotten in that bat in a situation. It's just there's so much care that needs to be taken for Starling Marte right now, which is not. It doesn't. None of it really seems worth it. He's not really hitting well enough. He's hitting totally fine. He's really good, but it's not enough to deal with all the other shit you got to deal with for having Starling Marte in the field.
Yeah, and I don't know. This is us being a little sourpuss again on Sunday.
Yeah, no, it's just the end of the way this game ended sucks, especially because like we got to talk about the fact that it was Buttó that gave it up, then it was Diaz that gave it up. Like those are the guys you want to be in for the 6 outs to end the game, and people are getting on Mendoza for his usage of those guys. I don't know what else Carlos Mendoza could have done than have his best 2 relievers pitch the most important 2 innings of the game. In that situation, those guys just have to get the outs. They have to be better.
Yeah, and if there's anything to nitpick from this game from Mendoza, it was trying to extend Jose Quintana into the 7th inning.
Yes.
Against Manny Machado, who had a piss rocket off the wall. Luckily, it was a single, so no damage done. But he was doing that because they had the 2 lefties up next with Cronenworth and Jackson Merrill. And I can understand because the Mets don't really have a lefty right now that can get big outs in a close game. Danny Young has been completely fine for this team. I think he's a fine pitcher, but you don't trust him to get those huge outs. Like, fuck, I miss Brooks Raley so badly because he'd be starting that inning in the 7th because he can get both sides out. But at the same time, because Machado then gets on, because we tried to extend Quintana, this now starts like a little bit of a snowball. You had to get Buttó in, not in a clean inning. got super lucky with a couple foul balls that just
Jeez, so
missed by
lucky.
a dick hair on the third and first base side. It was insane how close those balls were.
It's like this most vile thing on earth, a dick hair. Why would you say that on the podcast? That's disgusting. I don't want to put that image in anyone's mind.
Well, I did. So, because they were that close. They weren't long hairs.
uh,
But at
uh,
the end of the day, it was just like, I think extending Quintana probably wasn't the right call again. Not why they lost the game. Budo got out of the
no,
inning. Got out of the inning. But now, like going into the eighth, Budo then walked. It was just
yeah,
annoying. And I think the pitch selection to Jerkson Profar was a little bit frustrating.
horrible,
I don't know
terrible.
who ultimately decides the pitches. I don't know if it comes from the dugout to the catcher to the pitcher, or if the pitchers are completely in control, or if it was Luis Torrens. But he had Profar out in front on that changeup so much, and then he went to the fastball after he was out on his front foot. And for those of you who know, if you're out in front of it, it's the easiest way to help out the batter. Throw it a little bit faster because now he's going to be right on it. And Profar absolutely tanked it. It was a sinker that just completely rode into the barrel, and Profar hit a nuke.
Yeah, that's also the harm. We talk a lot of times about pitchers throwing sinkers against opposite-handed hitters, and you could see it right there where Budo was really trying a lot in this game to throw that sinker and kind of use it as a backdoor pitch to pick off strikes against a lot of the lefties, which is not it's just not worth it because best case scenario you get a called strike, worst case scenario the sinker winds up over the middle and that happens because the same thing happened for Arias in the 3-0 pitch. That was the same pitch Arias hit a
Yeah.
home run on Friday, where it's 3-0 with two men on, and he just threw a sinker completely down the middle of Luis Arias. And I was like, the whole game flashed from my eyes in that moment too. So it's probably a pitch selection thing. Maybe it's Budo not seemingly having confidence in his four-seam fastball, but also it is the snowball effect where after that first inning, it didn't seem like José Buttó had his best stuff. I would have had no issue if Phil Maton pitched that eighth. Because
Mm,
Phil Maton and Budo, similarly, you talk about not having the lefty. They both have repertoires where you should be able to get lefties out. And I
yeah.
know I'm going against this because Budo gave up the home run against the lefty, but that was because I don't know why he's throwing that sinker there. Like the changeups were still good. It was like fine, but it's just when he didn't have it and he had a very stressful inning where he threw a lot of pitches. Maybe just don't push it. Stop don't do the round peg in a square hole. The bullpen's been rested. You have an off day tomorrow. Use anyone you want. It doesn't matter. We're not thinking about the next day. So that was a frustrating part for me in this game too. But I can't kill Mendoza for that because Budo's been so good, especially in the multi-inning role. But he isn't missing bats. His command wasn't very good. He threw a first pitch ball to 5 of the 7
Yeah,
hitters.
I can't do
He
that.
faced that's just not going to get it done. Seeing that, it's that in-game adjustment where usually he's pushed all the right buttons Mendoza
Yes.
has in situations like that. So again, I'm not blaming him for it, but I'm just saying like seeing this game develop a little bit, maybe I wouldn't have pushed in the second inning.
And also, everyone like clamoring for Diaz there. I mean, he gave up the nuke. So if we're gonna be like the Monday morning quarterbacks and hindsight's 2020 and say should have gone to Diaz in the eighth, well, you saw what he did in the ninth. He was not sharp either in this one. And maybe that's a product of him getting up, sitting down,
A
getting up,
lot.
sitting down, warming up a lot, and then coming in like after basically warming up twice. Maybe that's the product of that too. Also, I don't know if you.
He's only got 6 outs once this year. Like you
Yeah.
can't. I don't know. Like that's just not something that's in his playbook right now. So what?
Well,
I
because
don't know.
also if you bring him in the eighth and let's say he gets out of it and then he blows it in the ninth, people would be like, "Well, why did we use him in the eighth? We
Yeah,
we
totally.
we
Well,
use
that,
he
yeah.
hasn't done this all year. Why do we try it now?" Like, there's no way to make anybody happy in a loss because you lost, especially when you're leading late and the bullpen blew
Mm.
it. Also, in the same regard, I don't know if you saw or listened. Were you watching today or were you listening to the game
I
mostly?
watched. I watched.
Okay. Did you pick up how Ronnie was talking about how Budo's changeup's been looking differently because his arm angle, his release
Yeah.
point has dropped a little bit? And I wonder if
Sick.
you'll be able to pick it up on the numbers. But Ronnie really doesn't miss that stuff. He's pretty much on normally when he sees those
So
changes.
good.
And he was like, his changeup has still been fine, but it's now moving a lot more horizontally rather than that dropping changeup, which we've seen from Budo, and that was so successful. And you did see the Padres lay off that changeup a lot in
Lot.
this game. They were
Ton.
able to read it, and maybe that's because it doesn't have the drop. It had more of that run. And I think that could also maybe be why that pitch looks sinkerish. Maybe the four seam just ran a little bit more because his arm angle is dropping. Could this be a change that the Mets are consciously making? Could this be Budo is getting a little tired? He's thrown a lot of big innings for this team this year. He's throwing probably more innings than he ever has, including the minor leagues. Could be getting tired.
Wow. Yeah. His average vertical release point, specifically on the changeup, is down almost an entire foot.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
I've never seen a graph like this on and also this is funny because this is where Budo's changeup similar release point in May when he started to struggle after the really hot April. So I guess that Ronnie did pick something up. Well, the other thing has happened is as Budo has progressed and become much better, the changeup has become his primary pitch, especially against lefties. He will just throw it ad nauseum against them. So maybe it's just again these things are coming back to scouting reports now. Scouts are getting a handle. This stuff's registering. So It's just this is the yin and yang for baseball. Pitchers get hot, hitters figure out what they're doing, they adjust back. That's what it is. But the pitch has still been great. Budo's
Yeah.
still been great. But now there's a few outings in a row where he hasn't been as sharp. So maybe he's not this peak high leverage guy. But also this outing, it's just I don't know why he threw that sinker, the profile there.
I
Now
don't
we
know
were
either.
spending most of this episode talking about this one game, but I think this is the game top of everybody's mind. And a 4-game series, it's so long that like
Yeah.
there's going to be the one that sticks in our craws the worst. But winnable game like this, you also got to hit better. The same problems. Martin Perez, I know you had to get through them once. That Padres bullpen comes in is every single inning. You guys dominating, so it's hard. It's just a good team. Padres are a good team. I guess maybe we just shouldn't even be that upset that we split the series. I don't know. Take what we got.
It's
4-game series on the road. I don't know. I guess a really
gonna
good
get
team.
murdered for saying that, but like
You know what I mean? It's just like
I know.
winning baseball games on the road is difficult. Like and the fact that you had this game in your grasp is the problem. If we just lost this game the way we lost the game on Friday, we'd probably have a more positive spin of the series. Like, okay, split with a good team, now win a series in Arizona, you're back in the mix. But
Oh,
the fact that
totally.
you should have won this game, not should have, could have won this game. That's the hit. That's the part that hurts.
Shout out to the Mets defense, by the way, in this series. Just
So
in general,
good.
phenomenal.
Fucking amazing.
Jose Iglesias made one of the craziest plays I've seen in a long time on that hit and run with Profar up the middle. He's covering because the runner is stealing. Profar hits a piss missile up the middle. He basically grabs it backhanded the other way, falls down, just barely touches second base with his foot, and then attempts to even try to get him at first base. Just roll the ball to Pete Alonso. That was a phenomenal play. Jesse Winker made a great play in the outfield on Saturday with that diving catch to save a run. Just really good stuff all around. It's just the bats need to wake up a little bit more right now. It can't be the two guys that are doing all the heavy lifting. And hopefully, like this lineup is good. I don't think this is a bad offensive team. We've seen this team for 130 games be really good at the plate. It just sucks that they are so hot and cold as an entire team. Like this lineup would be so different if Pete could just get hot or if Nemo could just get hot. Give us even one more guy to go along with Vientos and Lindor, and things would be looking differently. And with this Diamondback series coming up, and we'll do that preview a little bit later, they're going to have to hit because this Diamondbacks team can score a shit ton of runs quickly.
Yeah, God, just Thursday felt like the offense might have come around. They had 17 hits and they crushed Dylan Cease,
which I think they might have. They
the
might
Mets
have
had something on
Dylan
Dylan Cease
yeah.
because if you look at Dylan Cease's game log this year, it's completely outstanding except for literally 2 starts against the Mets where he was crushed. So, but watching the way they hit in that game, maybe he's tipping something just against the Mets. Maybe we picked something up the rest of the league does not know. But here, Dylan Cease is we almost scored 3 runs off him on that game. What?
Well, they pulled him early.
In the 7th.
Wait, he got pulled in the 7th. I thought it came out earlier.
Wow, Keg and Lanter, we had too much fun that night.
We did have a lot of fun. That was a good night. Well, did they make errors?
Such a great night. He pitched into the 7th, gave 9 hits and only 2 earned.
I guess it was just 9 hits. Maybe that's what it is.
9 hits was hit. But then we got all the runs late in that off the bullpen. But the rest of the series, no one really did anything on offense besides for Francisco Lindor and then Mark Vientos hit the home run today and JD. But he won the game single-handedly on Saturday night, and it's just the rest of the team is kind of just like watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, Harrison Bader before his home run on Saturday was 0 for his last 20, which was understandable because we know Harrison Bader as a hitter. It's not very good. Never was. Don't be fooled. Great defense. Love him in center field.
Never pretended to be.
Yeah, love him in center field, but he's not here to swing the bat. Yeah, it's bizarre. The way that they attacked Cease was so awesome. So awesome. They were aggressive early, and this is something that we did not see when Joe Musgrove was in the game, and I hated the approach against Joe Musgrove. Granted, he diced us up. He is a good pitcher. We say cheating Joe all the time, but that's more so for the memes because the Padres fans, that's another reason why I wanted to beat them so badly.
They're the worst.
Padres fans are the whiniest fucking fans in all of baseball, complaining about the shadow of the ball going over third base. I'm like, do you guys know how fucking shadows work? It's not exactly where the ball is. And the third base umpire was standing literally right there. Like, there's no way he misses that call. Complaining about that, like they just have something to say for everything for a fan base that is just relatively a bunch of losers out there. They got great weather and nothing else, never won anything in their life. It's impressive how confident they were, especially when they didn't exist, 3 or 4 years ago, these fans. So yeah. I would have really loved to stick it to them. I got really nervous when Luis Arias came to the plate and he had a chance to tie the game up, take a lead, but luckily he played selfish baseball, tried to hit the home run, hit it 380 feet. But back to where I was going here with this.
Wait, I'll tell my little Padres story that I tell
I'll
every
go
episode
for it.
now quickly, just in case we have some Padres fans hate listening. But to all the Padres fans out there, you guys as an organization were only built to be a whipping boy for the Dodgers. Just so you know that Walter O'Malley installed Buzzy Bavasi as the president for the Padres, and you guys came on as an expansion team because he knew that Bavasi was not very smart and he would always be able to take advantage of him, and he didn't want any kind of very successful team taking away from this Southern California market. So just know that you only exist to lose to the Dodgers. But go on.
Go on. So wrapping it all around here, I hated the approach on Friday against Joe Musgrove. It felt like because Musgrove has not thrown a lot of innings yet since coming back from the injury, hasn't thrown a lot of pitches, that the Mets went with the mindset of we're going to be very patient at the plate. We're going to knock him out of this game because his pitch count can't go very high. And the Mets have done this in the past with pitchers, and I fucking hate it because you jumped all over Dylan Cease, jumped all over him. He has better stuff than Joe Musgrove, debatably. Like, he is a better pitcher. Musgrove is very good. But
I'll, um, I'll push back. The Mets swung a lot in this game, much more than their average and the regular season average. Swung at more than 50% of Musgrove's pitches, but with that, he threw almost 70% of his pitches in the strike zone.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they were down 0-1, 0-2 because it felt like they were just taking. And I've talked about this on the podcast so much before. I'm so tired of seeing the Mets hitters take pitches in the heart of the zone, be down 0-1, 0-2, and then swing at a shit curveball or a shit slider out of the zone because they feel like they have to chase and not strike out. So they're swinging. Like, that approach was terrible, and I hate to just keep going at Eric Chavez here, but I am completely lost as to what he does every single day. It seems like there is a clear disconnect from how baseball should be played from an offensive standpoint and what he does.
We'll talk about Eric Chavez because he is this week's media marvel. So I don't know if we want to do that now or get to it, but
You can
I
talk
think
about it
there's
now.
also a game. We want to do it now?
Yeah, talk about it now. Well, listen, media marvels, it's an overarching thing. We don't have to be like, now it's on to the media marvels. If
Yeah.
it's topical, we can. And I think the conversation about Chavez is topical because he had some quotes and they were bad, super bad quotes. I don't think most of the people in the baseball or in the Mets world are going to think that same thing, but we'll explain to you why it's so bad.
Yeah. I like to keep that as a segment because one day we do have to get this sponsored by somebody. So we could do
Sure.
Media Marvel sponsored by, the New York Times. Like, that's something that's in the future for this podcast, maybe. But Eric Chavez came out in an article with Tim Healy and basically said that Francisco Alvarez is listening to the wrong people, is I guess the best way to put it. I'm trying to find the exact quote in the article right now. Again, amazing work by Tim Healy, as
Could be
always.
us.
Yeah, what?
It's like we could be part of the wrong
I
people.
guess it could have been us. Because I've been trying to tell him for the past couple of weeks. He's a high-performance sports car. He needs to learn how to drive the sports car in the second gear because he's got fourth gear, fifth gear, and it goes. He just needs to learn how to pump the brakes a little bit and control all that horsepower. I told him, listen, you had 25 home runs last year. That's great. I looked at your year. I don't think it was very good. There's a lot of areas that you could get better at. Everybody wants to jump into home runs. We've seen it across the league. We promote home runs. Batting average doesn't get talked about. I said it to him, in a couple of years, you're going to be one of the best hitting catchers in the league, but you have to learn how to hit first. Let's get your hit tool down. The power will come. It's there. The power is in the bag. You got to make sure that the hit tool and consistency is there. That
That's
is
despicable.
fucking horrible thing to hear from a hitting coach for a young catcher who looks like he could be one of the best, not even just power hitting catchers in the league, one of the best power hitters in the league, because we know a lot from baseball over the last few years. The name of the game is put the ball in the air and pull the ball as much as you can. It is. I'm sorry for the old school people out there listening to this, and I'm sure, of course, this maybe shouldn't be your approach in all counts and all situations against all pitchers. But at the end of the day, when you come up with a man on first and one out in the third inning, you should take a fucking hack if you're Francisco Álvarez, because that's what you do best.
And I think this is what gets lost sometimes, and even in this argument of the hitting philosophy, right? Like, the old heads get really mad at us for saying, pull the ball, pull it in the air, don't care. But the approach changes with the count. The approach changes with the situation. And when it's 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, until two strikes, Francisco Álvarez should be looking to do heavy damage every single time he gets to the plate. And you know what? That's what he did his entire career. How do you think he got to the majors as a 21-year-old? Because the dude went up there, took fucking daddy hacks, pulled the baseball, hit it hard in the air. And now it seems like he's being told, hey, you know how you were so good at all these great things? Don't do it. And you know who else I think is a product of this too? And I'm going to bring him up again. Brett fucking Beatty, because when he goes to the minors, he pulls the ball, hits it in the air, does a great job. He comes to the majors, and it looks like they're looking for singles. And I don't want any of my players looking for singles. That's not how you win baseball games. It's such a bad approach, and this is something that me and you have heard behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it sucks to hear that it's true. It sucks to hear that's true. All the good offenses, they don't do this shit. Mark Vientos isn't doing this shit. He's putting the ball in the air. He's hitting the ball hard. He's not looking to hit singles.
The painful part is that Chavez did say the quiet part out loud, saying like, we want to teach these guys about like how to have a higher batting average. And I think that sometimes this is coaching across all sports. I think people conflate success of individual players to then product of a system where a guy like Mark Vientos, I think he's ascended this year because he has not tried to pull the ball. But that's also not Vientos' style of a hitter. Like that's not similar to JD Martinez. If you were demanding these guys pull the ball, they probably wouldn't be as good. But Vientos has this kind of power. He gets nice loft on his swing anyway, and the ball's low and the ball's outside. He's able to get power to the opposite field. But that's not Alvarez. Alvarez is at his best when he is pulling the ball, when he's getting around on fastballs. And Alvarez last year was a murderer of fastballs. He crushed them. This year he's not. It's changed a lot. This year only has a run value of +1 against fastballs. Last year it was 9. It was one of the best run values per 100 pitches for a fastball for any catcher in the league. And the other ugly things about Alvarez, looking at a Savant page right now, they give a similarity score for all players.
I think it was Brett Beatty, right?
Number one similarity score right now, Francisco Álvarez is Brett Beatty, 2024, and that should scare the shit out of people. I'm not saying anything bad about these guys for their career, but when you look at Álvarez more, he's pulling the ball on average 10 percentage points less this year than he is last year, while hitting it to the opposite field 12 percentage points more this year than last year, and that will not make him successful.
And just to wrap everybody's heads around this as to why that is so bad, why pulling the baseball is so much more important than hitting the ball the opposite field. You physically cannot hit the ball harder the other way. It is not something you can do. The hardest you hit the ball is when you pull the ball or even up the middle. I'll give you that. Pull side, up the middle, that's where you're going to hit the ball the hardest. And you know what happens when you hit the ball the hardest? You get more hits. Look at the stats for exit velos. When you hit the ball harder, you get more hits, you do more damage, you are more valuable to your team at the plate. When you're putting the ball to opposite field, when you're hitting the ball softly, when you're looking for singles, you are not doing as much damage. Look at what happened to Jeff McNeil. He stopped trying to feel for the ball. He started pulling it a lot more, and he's looked like he's back to his old self. Like, there's a disconnect right now between what modern hitters should be doing, how hitting should be approached. And you're right. Not every hitter is the same. You have to look at these guys on individual basis. But for Francisco Álvarez, he is at his best when he's pulling the baseball and he's putting it in the air.
I think I don't think there's really a disconnect across the board. I think there's just these certain coaches, players,
well, that's the disconnect. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I'm saying. Like, I guess that is literally the disconnect. But just to get a very soft, rough difference of pulling the ball versus hitting the ball the other way. Just every single ball that's been pulled this year in Major League Baseball, it's happened 38,000 times. The slash line is 361 with a 691 slugging and a 410 xWOBA.
That's disgusting, by the way.
That is
the best player in the league if you pull the ball.
That was Aaron Judge. And then for all balls that have been hit opposite field, 25,000 of them, 294, 433 with a 277 xWOBA. So significantly less power, significantly less extra base hit potential. It's just the truth. That's just it. Again, there are some situations for every single player where you should be looking to put the ball the other way, looking to reach, looking to get a base hit. But Francisco Álvarez, 90% of the swings he takes, he should be up there taking fucking daddy hacks. And right now, for some reason, there's people in his ear telling him not to. Rather than not telling him to move a half an inch closer to the plate, maybe stop being obsessed with covering low and outside pitch. You could poke it the other way for a single. Because we don't give a fuck about that.
Couldn't care less. 2 strikes, go put the ball in play. I'm with you. I'm all about putting the ball in play with the 2-strike approach. But when it's a hitter's count, be up there looking to do damage. And you see that with the 2 best hitters on the Mets right now. Francisco Lindor and Mark Vientos are always looking to do damage. Lindor does not have the power that Francisco Álvarez has. Not even close to the power. But yet, he's able to capitalize because he jumps on those pitches. It's not close. Francisco Álvarez got like so much insane raw power. It's ridiculous. Francisco Lindor has great power for a shortstop. Good hitter. Love him. Our fucking MVP. This guy's such a king. But this is the thing that annoyed us the most when that quote came out. When I saw that, I was sick to my stomach because we'd heard about this. And now for it to be out there in the public, I'm like, fuck. He might just be stupid.
Yeah, Chavez. It's also
Chavez,
yeah. A lot of this can come out in something called fast swing rate, and I'm seeing right now that's not fast swing rate. The new bat tracking stuff on Baseball Savant. I think generally it's a lot of noise and nothing that's like super important to talking about a player. But I do think that it's really good at telling us these like little tiny stories about stuff and what it could happen. And we've seen it recently. Nolan Arenado just got hot out of nowhere. He's swinging the hardest he has all year. Now he's found his power again. Alvarez has taken a lower percentage of what are called fast swings, which is relative to your normal swing, how much harder you're swinging as of late, the last 2 months. So I think that probably is Chavez telling him to chill, to tone it down, and to not look for the power as much, more just look for the batting average, which is wrong.
Bad, stupid, bad.
Incorrect.
And that's why Eric Chavez is our big media marvel for this episode. Absolutely terrible. Now, on the good side of media marvel stuff, on the good side of some quotes that came out, Francisco Lindor, If you're not a fan of him now, I don't know what it's going to take, because besides the amazing play on the field, besides being the most valuable player statistically in the National League, Francisco Lindor spoke to Jeff Passan, statistically F4, spoke to Jeff Passan, and he gave some amazing quotes talking
It
about,
was porn.
yeah, it really was. It was Met fan porn. You should be like smiling ear to ear when you hear these things about him as a player, his experience here in New York, being a Met, and what his goals are for this team. And basically, he just wants to win. He has no interest in anything else, doesn't care about his performance on the field. All he wants is to win, and it was amazing to hear.
Yeah, I put the quote on my Twitter, and it was like basically the end of the article. Again, any Mets fan should read this. It was not behind a paywall. It was absolutely Mets porn. Like everything Francisco Lindor said was just like, I wanted to run through a brick wall. He said, I'm proud to be a New York Met, but my job is not done. I haven't done what it takes to win. We haven't won the World Series, so I don't want to say I've done my job to the ultimate end. I feel like not until the day we win, when I have the opportunity to give the trophy to Steve or Alex and say we did it, the job is not done. And that's what every Mets fan wants to hear. That's the truth. And Francisco Lindor, the media keeps asking about the MVP stuff. They had an MVP chant going on Saturday after I think the second home run in San Diego. And they're like, how do you feel about the MVP chants over here? He's like, I'm really impressed how well the fans travel. Like he doesn't give a shit about his own personal performance. He just happens to be one of the best players in baseball. He's blessed and he works incredibly hard and he's gifted with that, but he knows that this isn't about this. And Passan quote tweeted his own article with the grand slam on Saturday night without any words, just being like, this is a guy who's doing MVP type shit. And he is doing MVP type shit, but he's not going to win the MVP if we don't make the playoffs. No one else helps him.
Yeah, he needs some help. He literally is trying to do it on his own. He can't. It's not possible. That's why they lost Sunday's game. He had the opportunity to drive him in. Granted, he didn't with the bases loaded, but that's baseball. The best guy's going to get hit there 3 out of 10 times. Like, he was due to not get a huge hit.
We got a reply guide to when I tweeted that I tweeted the defensive play he made, and I said real MVPs play defense. I was really trying to see if I can goat the world on that. It actually is getting not the worst engagement ever,
Dodgers
but
fans.
Someone replied and they go, real MVPs don't chase splitters with the bases loaded and a strikeout in a huge spot. I'm like, dude, it's the 4th inning in August. Like, he's not gonna get hit every fucking time he comes up. They're like, we said we got get this MVP shit over with. We want to win the championship. He likely cringes when people like you talk about the MVP. New York, you earn your stripes by winning.
Good. I hope he cringes when we say that. That's exactly what I want from my leader.
Fuck yeah. I don't want Francisco Lindor to be keeping up with the Mets'd Twitter account. God forbid.
If he does, we're dead. The season's over. His career's over if he cares about what Mets'd podcast has to say.
I mean, no, he should care what we have to say, but he shouldn't be following us on Twitter.
True,
of course.
True.
I know he listens to every episode. We know that, but I don't want him to. Yeah. But some other great things from this article from Jeff Passan. He said that Lindor every single day talks to every single player on the team, and he's done it all year. He has like a small conversation. He said he said depending on the guy, like someone he'll razz, someone he'll give a point, or someone will say something. But he has a small conversation with every single player every single day. And he also said that whole players only meeting after the Jorge Lopez thing was fully called by Lindor. That was all he's doing.
Yeah, that's good. And I don't know if you noticed it too, but in this series in particular, he was busting his ass on every single play. There was a weak ground ball he hit to second base at one point, and he was out by 20 feet, right? Because it was a ground ball to second, easy play. He was sprinting through the bag, full sprint. There was a fly ball he hit to the outfield. He was on second base. That's the kind of stuff that I love to see. Obviously, get a hit there would be better, but like
would be great
for the lead by example, for the what's the word I'm looking for? Essentially, like putting it on himself, showing the people how it's done. If he's busting it every single time, there's no excuse for everybody else to not be busting it every single time. And I like that he's trying to send that message.
Totally. And there was a cool moment in the first inning on Sunday's game against Martin Perez, where Perez is a lefty, and he's one of the lefties I think is relatively easier to run on than most lefties. But Lindor, while not running, he was taking 5-step leads. He was daring him to throw the ball. He got back every single time, but it's just he's every single tiny little thing. He made great plays in the field too in this game, a few of them. It's just the tag he made to get out of the 7th inning jam wasn't saved the game briefly, but every little tiny thing is so fucking locked in, and just somebody needs to help him. And the last thing I want to talk about in this series, I guess, before we move on, because I think we covered most of it, just again, hats off David Peterson. Another amazing start. I'm going to continue to talk shit about David Peterson because he keeps pitching well, despite me saying I don't know how and why he's doing it. 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, but 7 scoreless innings, 7 1/3 scoreless innings pitch into the 8th inning, which is absolutely ridiculous. He's top 10 in baseball in terms of started ERA this year for pitchers that throw in a minimum of 80 innings. It's fucking obscene how well he's doing right now. And he's doing it by, again, without the great stuff, just mixing up his pitches so much. It was first pitches in this game. he threw 5 different ones. He threw mostly sinkers, then fastballs, split ups to righties and lefties. And he dropped a couple curveballs, a couple changeups, a couple sliders. Like, he's mixing everything right now in all of his counts, which is how a guy like Peterson, who doesn't have the best stuff in the world, can really maximize his stuff. And he's doing it. It's awesome. And return to Edwin Díaz. Shout out their king.
Yeah, how awesome was it to watch him pitch? He just comes
Fucking
out there and
great.
just pounds the zone and blows it
Fastballs.
by you. He's so awesome. It's going to be huge for us to have him in the bullpen in these big, meaningful games that we got coming up, because the schedule becomes insane. We got some
Mm-hmm.
crazy big games going on here, especially the next one against the Diamondbacks. Another thing to mention, Paul Blackburn, IL, drilled with a line drive. I don't think he fractured his wrist or anything, but I think it's
Had a
just like,
contusion, but he's going to miss the start.
yeah, he's going to miss a start, so they put him on the IL. So Tyler McGill is probably going to be called up at some point, because the Mets do need
Yeah.
another starter, and he's really the only other option. I don't think Joey Lucchese's coming up right now. So keep an eye on what the Mets do with their starting pitching moving forward. Blackburn did also not have a great start against the Padres, but it's going to happen. He wasn't brought in to be an ace. I wish he
No.
pitched better, but he didn't. So move on from that.
I definitely want to give people. I'm not going to like defend Tyler McGill. I'm not going to think he's going to come up and throw well. But there's a pitcher in the Diamondbacks who I think is a good lesson for baseball fans and people as to why you just can't give up on pitchers with good fastballs like Tyler McGill has. Ryan Nelson has come out of nowhere. I asked Dalton about him, but our boy Dalton didn't answer any of our questions. So I'm just going to talk about Nelson now before we get into Diamondbacks.
He didn't answer any of your questions. He answered
Yeah, that's true.
mine.
I think he was just buzzing. But Nelson had been horrible for basically 2 straight years. Statistically, one of the worst pitchers in baseball. Consistent ERAs in the 5s. But the Diamondbacks are blessed to have Brent Strom, who might be the best pitching coach ever possibly, at least probably the best of the modern era. Like, he does so well in blending analytics with mentality,
Old guy vibes.
He's so fucking good. Sequencing, he's amazing. Also, his wife's a pitcher, is like basically a pitching expert as well. Like, they just love pitching. Like, to go home and talk to your loved one about pitching. Like, what
That's
could be
awesome.
better? What could be better than that? But he helped Nelson with some sequencing and some fastball usage stuff this year, where I think Nelson was always a little bit scared of homers because they always killed him. So he would throw his fastball low in the zone a lot, even though he had one of those really nice, like, backspinning IVB fastballs that we talk about so much. So about a month and a half ago, Strom was like, throw that shit high in the zone and throw it more because it's your best pitch. So he went away from it. He tried to have an even repertoire. Then he was like, fuck this. His fastball's my best pitch. He's throwing at least 60% of the time in 7 of his last 9 starts, something like that, after never doing it this whole year. And he's been literally one of the best pitchers in baseball. He forced the Diamondbacks to take Jordan Montgomery. They're paying $25 million out of the rotation so he can stay in. He's been pitching that well. So we're going to see him in this series. And it's just again, a message that it takes pitchers a long time sometimes. It just does. Musgrove in this series. How long did it take Musgrove to become a good pitcher? We always had that good fastball. It's like 6 years in the major leagues to actually get good. My friends used to make fun of me because I held him in the Dynasty League for fucking ever. A league that's been around since, I think, 2011. Had Musgrove right away. I was like, this is my guy. Like, he sucks. But
how long did it take Garrett Cole to get good? I mean, like,
traded for Joe Musgrove.
How long did it take Max Scherzer to get good? There are plenty of pitchers that sometimes it's just not, well, Greinke was pretty good from the start, but
a couple bad years early.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'll give you that. But end of the day, sometimes it takes a little time. That being said, Tyler McGill, you up? We got the text. Are we answering?
You up? Let's see it. Especially it's going to happen. The Mets might shuffle their rotation, pitch him against the White Sox. Might strike out 12 guys.
Yeah.
And
also,
locked in.
Back to that Ryan Nelson, Jordan Montgomery thing real quick before we get into this Diamondbacks preview. Love the message that they're sending to the guy you're paying $25 million. Bullpen. We're trying to win baseball games right now. Mm-hmm. Ryan Nelson gives us the best opportunity. We'd love to see that with the Mets too, because we got a guy that we talked about earlier that we're paying a lot of money to, who I don't think gives us the best chance to win when he's on the field right now. And in case you didn't pick up the hint, that is Starling Marte.
And I guess the last thing we'll talk about before Diamondbacks preview is that rosters will expand in a few days, and we'll talk about this a lot probably in the next few episodes. But everyone assumed it was going to be Brett Baty to get the roster spot, but he broke his finger. Yeah. So now there's a big conversation about who's going to get this spot from the Mets. And Drew Gilbert's finally back in AAA and hitting better. Luis Angel Acuna offer. He does a lot. Again, that's zesty Whit Merrifield, guys. He does a lot of things well. A lot of guys in his team do not do well. It's going to be interesting. Or they could just go with DJ Stewart or a veteran guy like Luke Ritter. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the Mets go with this roster spot in five days when you're listening to this.
I would love to see Acuna on this team.
Just or Gilbert.
Or Gilbert, one of those guys. Just a little spark plug, give a little action, give a little spice to this. Athleticism, which we desperately.
Drew Gilbert is not zesty. Luis Angel Acuna is zesty. It's a big difference there.
Well, Drew Gilbert's got dog. He's dog.
Yeah.
Acuna's zesty. He's a spark plug. Drew Gilbert's like a fucking. I'm a bulldog. Let me out of my cage. I'm gonna attack. Let me pounce. But. Yeah, I would love to see Acuna. I really would. If it's not going to be Drew Gilbert, I'd like to see him given a shot. I think there's also a really cool opportunity to just sneaky give him a little bit of season in here. Sneaky see what he can do at the major league level. A couple innings at second base, couple innings in center field, whatever it's going to be. Let him pinch run on the base paths. Get a couple at bats. I'd like to see him DJ Stewart's our king, but I don't think he makes this team any better having up here, where I think Acuna could have an impact.
And Gilbert, I'd say we'll talk about this a lot next episode, but I think now time to pass it over to ourselves and Dalton for the Diamondbacks preview. All right, guys, very special preview of the Arizona Diamondbacks series right now. We have on Diamondback superfan, talented NFL capper, one of the best fantasy football players I've ever met, and frequent caller to Broads Media, the Philadelphia show, where they just spew bad takes. Our boy Dalton Kates. Dalton, what's up, dude?
How we doing, guys? Riding a high right now of bro just going absolutely berserk after the D-backs yet again put the Phillies to the hammer, and we let them know that we are their papa.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks are playing some pretty insanely good baseball right now. I will be in Arizona sleeping on Dalton's couch during this next series, so if you guys are in Arizona, say what's up. But you guys just don't lose, even today. Coming back against the Red Sox, starting to feel like a little bit of team of destiny, starting to get hot. And this Diamondbacks team feels dangerous. How does it feel as a Diamondbacks fan to go on this run right now?
Dude, it's actually insane. It just feels like we're on an absolute heater, but it also feels like that heater's never going to end. It's not like playing craps and you're just like ripping 6s and 8s the entire time. And eventually a 7's going to hit. It feels like you're playing craps, but there's no possible way to get a 7 because it's only going to get better as the season progresses. So it feels like there is a heater and this team is hot, but there is like legitimate reasons to believe this team is going to be even better than what it currently is on this hot streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the Diamondbacks are 24-6 or 25-5 in their last 30 or some ridiculous shit like that. And you guys just you literally don't lose baseball games. You got swept by the Rays last weekend. It felt like this guy might be coming down, but it stopped and you keep winning. And it's crazy you guys keep winning because you're missing 2 of your best players from the whole regular season right now. Neither of them are playing. Both Ketel Marte and Christian Walker are on the IL. And Eugenio Suarez, Jake McCarthy, Corbin Carroll's finally hit up. Like, it doesn't matter. Someone finds a way to pick this Diamondbacks team up every single day.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the most impressive thing is the fact that we've had Jordan Montgomery have 19 starts for our team. And the fact that he has an 8-6 win-loss record is just absurd. Like, every single time this man is taking the mound, you are just in for one hell of a ball game. And somehow the offense just comes through despite Montgomery. And I think that's just really the story of the Diamondbacks. It doesn't matter what's happened, whether it's Paul Sewald blowing games, the D-backs find a way to come back. Whether it's Jordan Montgomery having the worst ERA of all starters after paying this guy $25 million and then potentially paying him $25 million again next year. This team just finds a way to do it, whether you had injuries to Christian Walker, now Ketel Marte's hurt, Gabby Moreno's been out. Like, we had Gallen hurt for a bit. Merrill Kelly's been out. Eduardo Rodriguez, our big signing, has been out most of the year. Like, it just really everything is kind of cratered in on the Diamondbacks, and they've just found ways to win and bounce back regardless.
Yeah, no, they've been playing outstanding baseball, and I feel like for the Diamondbacks, last year kind of snuck up on everybody. That run to the World Series was crazy. I got to be there with you watching a lot of it, and James as well, although James might have been the jinx there in the World Series. But does it have the same vibes as last year, or are you feeling even more confident about this team right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been an Arizona fan my entire life in all sports, and I can confidently say that this might be one of the best single seasons of any sports team in Arizona that I've been alive for. And that is like, I think they're up there with like those 0-1, like 0-4 teams. I'm not putting like pressure on them or anything, but I've seen the Cardinals make the Super Bowl. I've seen the Suns make the finals. And I'm telling you, this Diamondbacks team has a vibe of someone that can do extremely. Like, if you look across the board, they have 0 weaknesses. And you can argue that every aspect of their team is a strength. Top 5 defense. You could argue they're one of the best base running teams in the entire league. When healthy, you could argue that starting rotation is one of the best in the bigs. Now with their bullpen getting AJ Puck and Justin Martinez now in that closer role with Ginkel in the 7, and then Ryan Thompson and some other guys, like, that's one of the best bullpens in the league. And this offense has just been raking. Like, this team is just absolutely cooking.
Dude, straight up, I also think this team is just better than the team last year for all the same reasons.
100%.
Last year just felt Cinderella. It felt like it was just Tommy Pham and Zach Allen going out there and Ketel doing everything they could every single day. But AJ Puck's been awesome. That was a huge trade that kind of changed your guys' season. Justin Martinez, He's been one of my favorites for a while just because if you throw 101 miles an hour, I'm like, yeah, you're the man.
Yep.
I like you. But now, suddenly, finally, like in the last 3 weeks, like he steadied the 9th inning. That was super unsteady all season. And like you said, like Ginkel pitch in the 7th. That's crazy. He was like the hero last year. Now he's a middle inning reliever, which is just fucking lethal. And when you get Ketel and Christian Walker back, like this lineup, it fucks, like simply as that. I think I told Mark like a month ago where I was like, guess where the Diamondbacks rank the season in terms of runs scored? And he was like 12th. I was like 3rd. He was like, what? But it's like they bludgeon you to death. And even a guy like Adrian Del Castillo comes up out of nowhere in the last few weeks. He was raking in AAA. Mark loved him in the draft for some reason a few years ago. Dude's a monster coming up to the majors. He strikes out a bunch, but every time he hits the ball, it goes 450 feet. Like everything is just clicking. All the buttons are right. You guys even have Luis Guillorme now, who the Mets fans could really resonate with that.
What a play he made the other day.
Always does.
Dude, and Jock Peterson too.
Holy shit. Josh Bell.
Enough. Yeah, like they not that they picked these guys up off the scrap heap, but they gave up nothing for Josh Bell. The Marlins cut him. They were like, we don't want him. Picked him up off waivers. Jock Peterson was a sneaky good sign this offseason, a guy who has the playoff experience, a good left-handed bat. I mean, the Diamondbacks were rocking Pavin Smith last year in the postseason in World Series games. They're like, Pavin Smith, hit him 5th, put him right in the middle of the order. This team is so much better, and the way that they're playing right now is crazy.
Dude, Pavin Smith hit 5th today for the Diamondbacks.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know what Torey Lovello's obsession is with hitting Pavin Smith in the middle of this order, but you know what? He pushes all the right buttons. They're playing such good baseball. What are the pitching matchups for this series, James? I don't even know who's due up for them. Who are we getting? Probably Ryan Nelson.
I got it. So I mean, Ryan Nelson's the GOAT. I can't wait to pontificate on Ryan Nelson. But Tuesday and Wednesday, 9:40 games for the East Coasters out there. Ace off, Sean Manaea versus Brandon Pfaadt. That's a big one. And then Wednesday, Luis Severino versus Eduardo Rodriguez. And Thursday, the Mets have a question because we don't know. That was Paul Blackburn's spot, but he just went the IL. So we don't know yet if that's just going to be David Peterson on regular rest or if that's the game that Tyler McGill slots in to start, which I kind of hope they move up Peterson, just let McGill face the White Sox, but we don't know what's going to happen there. And that one is against Ryan Nelson. And now, this back-to-back years, the Diamondbacks had a pitcher who had good pedigree between last year Brandon Pfaadt and this year Ryan Nelson, look abysmal, and all of a sudden on a dime, second half started, and this guy just changed. It's amazing what Brent Strom and like what you guys do down there with getting these pitchers in season.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Ryan Nelson has been on an absolute heater, and because he's been so good, he's forced the hand. Like he was not supposed to be in a rotation. It was supposed to be in Jordan Montgomery, but he has been so good that they couldn't put him in the bullpen, and they had to make the move to put Montgomery in there. And Brandon Pfaadt has been our best pitcher all year, given like all injuries to everyone. Like he's not a guy that's going to be there dominating games for you, but he's going to give you innings. He's going to keep you in the game like nearly all the time, and he has been absolutely awesome. You could tell like last year in the playoffs that really kind of changed his trajectory heading into this year, and he's been awesome for us. So it's really cool to like sit there with like every single starter, now that Montgomery's out in the rotation, that you have someone that can like give you reasonable innings, that is probably going to keep you in the game for the most part, and in a good game is going to dominate for you.
Yeah, no, this series is going to be insane. I'm like looking forward to it because it's going to be fun to be there, but I'm also going to be shitting my pants every single pitch that is thrown this, because with the Mets now being 2.5 back from the Braves after losing the 4th game of the series to the Padres, they're kind of not really in it with the Diamondbacks. Like theoretically, it's really not close right now. What is it? I think 6 games back of the Diamondbacks now. Yeah, so like this series is more important to the Mets for winning to stay like close with the Braves rather than trying to catch up to the Diamondbacks, which I wish you guys would lose so it could be close, but it is going to be tight. Is there any hype for the Mets coming to town, or is it just like,
why would
they really
be?
care? No, well, I mean, it's still a wild card.
It's hype for you coming to town.
Yeah, I know, Mark. We're super excited to have you in town and come watch us, because I mean, you bring some good vibes for sure, and we're probably part of the big reason the D-backs made the World Series, even though no one gives you credit. I mean, you're a big reason for that. So credit where credit's due. So I don't want to like harp on the fact that maybe like there's not a lot of optimism, but right on the other side of the Mets series is our last series against the Dodgers. So that is our massive one of like trying to catch up there. But I think we've kind of been prepping, and we have been extremely hot this last, I mean, not just month, like last 3 months, but I wouldn't say we've had like the hardest schedule, but our September is pretty freaking brutal. And I think it starts the series. Like we've had games against the the Marlins and the Rockies to kind of ease our way into it. But like starting with the Mets, it's like, okay, we have a full month stretch heading into the playoffs where we don't have the easiest series. We have to battle. We have to go through teams that are fighting for playoffs, whether it's Padres, Brewers, Dodgers, Mets, like these teams. So I think it just like that their switch is about to be flipped to be like, all right, like time to lock in. Every single game is going to be playoff baseball until the season start or until the playoffs start. And then from there, it's just going from there on out. So it's starting this series right here.
Yeah, dude. You guys are only 3 games back of the Dodgers for both the division and the best record in fucking baseball.
Yeah, well, they
That's
keep
crazy.
winning.
You're
Freaking annoying.
barely 500 team in June, and when you guys came, because the Diamondbacks also famously to us, played the Mets the series after the Jorge Lopez incident, where things actually started to feel okay. But then we won the first 2 games of that series. We're like, all right, hell yeah, the season is not over. And then lost the next 2 games of that season, which is like, all right, that's kind of just how this Mets season has been overall. But Dalton, just what's your vibe check? Do you think that you guys have a chance to catch the Dodgers?
If we beat them in the series, yes, but it really is going to come down to that series because that's our one chance to go head to head against them. And our biggest issue is like we're constantly winning games, but the Dodgers are constantly winning games. So even though we are on this heater, the Dodgers are on this heater. So we're not able to make the ground that you normally would think this team that is this hot would be able to make ground on a division rival. So, I mean, Dodgers are there. They got Mookie back and everything. So it's really hard to expect the Dodgers to lose games. And it's also really hard to expect us to continue winning at this pace. But I mean, I'm at least optimistic that this team, I'm more so looking not necessarily at the division. I'm more so just looking at the playoffs and what this team could look like in the playoffs against some of the other teams in the NL and potentially in the World Series.
It's gonna be a big series. Gonna be a fun one. Dalton, let everybody know where they can find you. Plug all your stuff here, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
We're excited to have you in there, Mark. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Dalton_Kates.
Wait, Dalton, before you go, give everyone one pick after 100 in their fantasy football draft that could win them the league.
Dude, you just know I'm going to say Kyle Pitts, but I can't do it. I can't do it.
I have to pick 100.
You're setting me up just to get burned again.
Let's not pick 100 later.
Okay, for the first time, I'm actually like really in on my own team. So I promise you there's no bias, even though it seems like I'm biased here. But I think Trey McBride is an absolute hammer this year. Like Trey McBride is the guy that should be going so much earlier, but people aren't necessarily as high on because there's a lot of other good tight ends. But I think Trey McBride could be like the new age Zach Ertz, but maybe even better. And I think Kyler's going to have his best year yet with Marvin there. I think things are going to really open up. So
wait, give me one more. Give me a UN0 running back. Who's the first running
back? I'll
back?
just give you my full rankings right now if you want.
Something. You're fantasy football. You're plugging stuff. Tell us.
Yeah, no. They're my wide receivers. I like the rookies a lot. Neighbors, Marvin, of course. I think Odunze and Worthy. So I think if you're in drafts and you're missing out on some of these really kind of key names, once you get to like the 5th, 6th round, start targeting these rookies: Lad McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Odunze, even Brian Thomas is interesting. Once you get later in drafts, Adonai Mitchell and Jalen Polk. I think this rookie wide receiver class is gonna be really good. So finding fun ways for that. And then some of these
running back's name. I need one running back's name.
I've never drafted a running back in my life, so this is very hard for me. I really like Chase Brown a lot this year.
Still?
Chase Brown. I think he's a fun upside play this year.
All right.
So.
Love it.
And Javonte. I'll give you Javonte Williams too. I like that.
Okay, beautiful. Dalton, one more plug of your stuff. Thanks for coming on. You're the man.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. We're excited for the series and go D-backs.
All right. Peace. All right, there it is. Anything else here to talk about, James? We got anything else? Or Frankie Peppers. Frankie Peppers.
Frankie, of course, yeah, ready to go. So update from Frankie Peppers after losing a disappointing game against the Padres.
Go off, King.
Gentlemen, it's Frankie Peppers. Can you please tell me when the baseball playbook changed to say that it's a good strategic decision to walk the 9-hitter? I'd like to know when that change was made, because the Mets really seem to be hanging on that strategy this year, and I don't know how effective it's been for them. They might need to change the strategy. Sour end to the series, boys. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Francisco Lindor had a phenomenal Game 3. I think the end of the season, you make him the captain, no questions asked. But today was not good for my heart. Both, physically and emotionally. I'm a little hurt right now. I might need to go make an appointment. I'm actually going to call my doctor right now. Thanks, boys.
Gotta tell you, Frankie Peppers' doctor has got to be making some money. This guy's always got ailments that he needs to take care of, but I guess that's just being a Mets fan.
Where the fuck is Frankie calling from? A meadow? Those birds were chirping. It sounded nice out there.
Oh, I have a pretty good idea that that's not his normal voice, and he's hanging out.
Shit.
And he's hanging out outside because he doesn't want people to hear him talking like an insane person in public if he lives with others. But Frankie Peppers, as always, brings the heat. He did bring up something we missed.
Mason McCoy.
Fuck Mason McCoy. God
I've been
damn
walking
it.
3 times this series.
How did he get on base so much? Oh, Mason McCoy. That guy can't be good. There's no way.
That walk, we didn't talk about that walk of his from Buttó. That was like the kind of defining moment in this game. That was, I was like, I don't think we're gonna win anymore. But
no.
Terrible. We got to flush this game. We have 3 huge games coming up starting on Tuesday. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Big series against the Diamondbacks. Just keep winning. Keep playing good baseball. That's all we need to do. And hopefully, if you win enough games, you get into the playoffs. Can't worry about what everybody else is doing. And hopefully, we just win. I want to see some good games out there. It would be really miserable for me if I fly out to Arizona and just get fucking stomped. That would not be fun. But guys,
really good.
Yeah, that team is so good. You didn't believe in them in the start of the year. You didn't believe.
I said they were. 2 years ago, last year, I did believe in them. I was like, watch out for the Diamondbacks, sneaky playoff team. This year, I was like, I don't think this Diamondbacks team has it. But made some changes. I didn't see Ryan Nelson coming out of nowhere, and I didn't see Jock Peterson having like 1,000 OPS. Didn't see either of those coming.
That's fair. Who did? Ketel Marte. Thank God he's not going to be playing in this series. Oh my God, hurting my fantasy team. But I love that he's not on the field against us. Guys, thank you for listening and watching. Remember to follow us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the Mets'd Podcast YouTube channel if you want to see the video version of this. If you are listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. Follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
I'm Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. We will catch you guys after the Arizona series. Hopefully good vibes. And if not, we're going to be cracking open some cold ones and having a sad boy moment. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See you guys next time.